Yeah, what brand?
Oh, Terex.
Terex, all right. So basically the argument is your Terex is not a motor vehicle. Well, it's not an ORV, not an ORV. Okay. So I saw your response this morning. I saw your reply to her response. Did you see those, by the way, the reply? All right. So I think we've all seen the same paperwork. Okay. You want to hit some highlights of your arguments?
I mean, my argument's pretty much cover the whole thing, and like I said again, this goes back to just trying to label this an ORV. And it's strict ORV, like if I took a monster truck up on the roadway that takes up both roadways, can't turn, make turns in the roadway, right? The way the statute's applied, they can be, and for instance, they advertise like Ford Raptors and such, right? They show them in all the commercials going up mountains, same with Jeeps, all, they advertise, hey, take them all off road, right? So the way the statute's written, they can just basically be like, oh, hey, anything with that looks like, pretty much any vehicle is capable of going off road. So at any given time, the way the statute's being applied to me, they can just, any vehicle is capable of being taken off road.
Let me stop you though. Let me stop you. That's actually a different argument. So one argument is your Terex is not an ORV. The other argument is their ordinance or the statute they're applying is just too vague. It's just unconstitutionally vague. Would you agree with me that's two different arguments?
Well, I think they tie together.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. But the reason I want to make sure we're all on the same page, because I think there's two different responses that could come and two different decisions that could be made. Would you agree with me? Okay. So I want to take them one at a time then. So first is, well, one would be your Terex is not an ORV. Doesn't meet the definition. And the second argument would be, and the definition they're using is overly vague. Okay. So, Madam Prosecutor, pick one of those arguments. Let's pick one and we'll talk about one at a time.
Certainly, Your Honor. Let's start with whether or not you all utility.
Just call it Terex. Just call it let's make it specific to him, the Terex.
Policy 248122.
Oh, give me that again. I was somewhere else when you started talking. Go ahead. MCL.
81101 sub U defines ORV as a vehicle, a motor-driven off-road recreation vehicle capable of cross-country travel without benefit of a road or trail on or immediately over land, snow, ice, marsh, swampland, or other natural terrain. It goes on to give examples of what is included in an ORV and what are not included as an ORV. Here, the utility terrain vehicle, as Mr. Cusell labels it, is an off-road vehicle. Exhibit A that I included in my motion is a.
Let me stop you. I'm sorry. In your reply to his motion? Is that where your exhibit A is? Okay, go ahead.
Owner's manual, it particularly gives under basic safety off-road vehicle, off-highway use only. This vehicle is not an all-terrain vehicle. It is designed and equipped to be a multi-use utility vehicle for off-highway use only. Use of this vehicle on public roads and paved surfaces is hazardous. Do not operate this vehicle on public roads or paved surfaces. In addition, in Exhibit B, I included a relevant portion of the ORV handbook that is found on the state of Michigan's website, and it includes utility terrain vehicles as an ORV. It also, conveniently enough, includes a photo of a near identical ORV that Mr. Cusell operated back on February 3rd of this year.
Okay. Anything else?
I guess I can go further. Mr. Cusell then goes on to liken it to something like a Ford Raptor, a Jeep, monster truck. The multi-purpose personal use vehicle used for personal family conveyance. MCL 324.8112 sub 1 states that an individual shall not operate an ORV that is not registered under the code upon a street, county road, or highway. A Ford Raptor, Jeep, and a monster truck all need to be registered in order to operate on.
Right.
Mr. Cusell was not pulled over because he was operating an ORV, but because that ORV was not registered, did not have a license plate. For that reason, I believe that this motion should be dismissed and, the people renew the request for registration.
I have an objection to that, Your Honor.
Yeah, well, it's not an objection, it's a response, but go ahead.
Okay, well, again, none of the registration or any of that stuff was even brought up, any of it. They slapped an ORV on it because they had me held in the car for 45 minutes on the phones. I on body cams trying to figure out what to even charge me with because I wasn't pulled over in retaliation. And that is what they pulled me over for. Reading the one what was stated and put on there. And going back to the liability or the not operating on highway use, it's referring to, we purchased those, I don't know if that involved one or used them. They tell you that they come stock to only go about 50-ish miles an hour. You can get a module to make it go highway speeds when they're referring to highway.
I saw that in your response.
The higher speeds, and that would be the reason why. And I think everyone does nowadays see how common these UTVs are and see them all over the place.
I got to shoot you down there though, because you spend a lot of time talking about that you see these all over. That doesn't make them legal. I mean, that just bottom line doesn't make them legal. The fact that for example, some communities just kind of like turn a blind eye to golf carts, right? That's not necessarily saying they're legal. That's just saying they're not enforcing them. Now that gets to your other argument, which, does that create an unfair situation? But I gotta shut you down there because just because you see them doesn't mean they're legal. But let's get back to that language you used. Like, I gotta find it. Oh, okay. Do not operate this vehicle on public roads or paved surfaces. I understand your argument is they're telling you to stay off the highway with a stock Terex, but they didn't say highway. They said not safe for public roads or paved surfaces. That's what they said.
What?
So I'm just.
Yeah, it's why, just like how they put on bicycles, they wear elbows, knee pads and helmets, right? So
I understand that.
they don't operate on public roadways without a helmet.
I understand that's your take on what this means, but the clear language says don't go on paved surfaces.
Yes, the clear language is the same with the manuals for, again, dirt bikes, motorcycles,
Right.
right? Yeah, that's still legal for people to drive around without helmets.
All right.
Because it's a liability issue, that's why they put it in there.
So
What people do with something after they purchase it.
So my understanding is that if you jump through the hoops, if you go through the process, it's possible, you might have to add some equipment to your Terex or whatever. But it's possible to get some of these vehicles registered as roadworthy with the Secretary of State. That's my understanding. If it's got, and I made a list, if it's got bumpers at the correct height, it's got windshield and wipers and rear view mirrors. If it's got all this safety equipment, then you can get it registered and put it on the road legally. Is that your understanding?
Oh, no, in my defense, before this even happened, Sergeant Bryce, who's a bar.
No. Hold on. I'm talking generally. I'm not talking specifically to you. I'm talking generally speaking. Do you agree with me that there is a process that the state of Michigan has that you can take something that may be an off-road vehicle and you can go through steps and have it roadworthy and registered as such with the state of Michigan? Do you understand? Do you agree there's a process for that?
For certain vehicles, I would say, yes.
Okay, all right.
My specific UTV, they are already equipped and sold, road ready.
Okay.
Again, you go back to the disclaimer, just because they put it in there, it's a disclaimer for there.
Then why have you not registered as a vehicle with the state of Michigan?
Sergeant Bryce told me I was well within my lawful rights. I stated, he was trying to pull to me and my wife at the gas station right where I got pulled over. Well, previously to this, we even talked about it. We had a conversation about it at the gas station. The BP is simply a middle. He instructed, even told me, you're well within your lawful rights.
Okay.
He said this numerous times. And then I relayed this to Officer, I don't know.
The officer that wrote the ticket.
Yeah, right. And then when I asked him the second interaction I had with him, I asked him, dude, I need to get you, which is part of the body cam. I'm still trying to get a hold of these things because I have to take them to court for it because they're withholding body cam image. Where I asked him, hey, I need you to get a supervisor to clarify this because he told me I'm not getting a pissing match and drove away. So
All right, stop there. Hold on. Is it your understanding that there's a mechanism by which if the safety equipment is there, then the vehicle can be registered with the state of Michigan?
But it's my understanding that the specific township or municipality needs to adopt or identify certain roadways that they are then able to operate on. As far as I know, the township of Huron doesn't have any that are safely permitted. I do believe that.
Hold on. You're telling me if the state of Michigan registers it as a motor vehicle, you guys can still say you can't go on your roads?
I believe it's county owned roads. Or, it's my.
even though the state says it's a motor vehicle. Because that's my understanding. If the state registers it as a motor vehicle, that's what they're doing after all the safety equipment is there.
But I think it's for limited use. So like, there's examples in the statute that talks about for limited purposes of, say like parades or something to that effect.
Again, Your Honor.
Hold on. I'm cogitating.
Yeah.
Well, it would seem to me that the township's got to get off its ass and do something with their ordinances on register. I mean, if the state's out there authorizing people to drive these on pavement and you guys just haven't decided where they can and can't, it sounds like the township's got to get on the board.
You can look up their one that's decided, to be honest, they said it didn't exist.
What doesn't exist? I'm sorry.
They're trying to charge them with the code they gave, they said it doesn't even exist, I couldn't
Okay.
even look it up.
Brother, you keep throwing new arguments in.
I'm sorry, well, I'm just bringing it up. I'm sorry.
Hold on. Let's not get there yet. I'm making notes so you don't forget to get there, but don't get there yet. I'm having trouble figuring out how the township can tell somebody they can't operate a motor vehicle that the state of Michigan says is a motor vehicle.
Yeah, I am not specifically prepared to argue that only because Mr. Cruzel's ORV wasn't registered, so it has no bearing on whether or not it can operate.
But it can be.
Souls.
Well, don't get me started with that. I mean, all right, so let's talk about the fact that they've charged you under an ordinance that doesn't exist. My paraphrase of your argument.
Yeah, I've been trying to clarify too and bring it up too, and I've been trying to find it, doesn't even, the code they cited doesn't even exist.
All right, hold on. Let me get to the paperwork.
I just had one fact I wanted to throw.
Hold on. Don't do that. You're confusing me.
Okay.
Make your notes so you don't forget. All right, so if we look at the ticket, offense code is 257311. Authorization code is, I don't know what that is, 00003?
Yeah, I think.
Is that, I'm reading it 00003. So I guess let's get a clarification from the prosecutor. What is the specific ordinance, statute, whatever, that the ORV on roadway is being prosecuted under?
So here on adopts the Michigan Traffic Code, which I could reference to, but I also stated in my motion, that.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but the reply that I'm looking at for today?
Yeah.
All right, so let us both know where to find that. Yep.
My final argument, or my final, sentence before my argument. Ultimately, the
Okay.
ORV on the roadway in violation of MCL 324-81122 and Huron Township Ordinance 506-4, which I do have a copy, and it is on and available on E-code 360, which is.
Okay. Could you provide a copy of that to Mr. Cruzel? You only have one copy?
I do.
That's all right. Mr. Cruzel and I can share it. Yeah, probably helpful. Mr. Cruzel, why don't you let me have that for just a minute. We'll make copies. So then you've got a copy, I've got a copy. You got a copy for yourself, counsel?
I don't, but
Let's-
it's word for word, which is making action.
Let's make a couple copies of it. All right, so while we're waiting for those copies,
I would like to also add, Your Honor, to make this even more interesting, the township is doing, Police Chief, Robbins, we've known him.
hold on. Two,
Not relevant. He keeps believing there's some sort of conspiracy against him. When in fact we're here today for operating an ORV on the roadway back in February. If there's any conspiracy, it's one that Mr. Fusel's orchestrated himself.
okay, hold on, because I think your objection might have been a little bit premature. I don't even know where he's going.
So what's funny about the ORV thing is because Police Chief Robbins, we've known him forever, he's at my personal ORV, had his, my dad, same thing.
Okay.
He even contacted my dad and had asked him, he's here, asked him to have me call him, because he couldn't call me for legal reasons. And when he said, he brought up and goes, man, you can't have an ORV, bro. So he was trying to work out, he even told him he wanted to work out a deal with me, is what he told him on the phone. And,
That's simply not true.
it's very true, you can test, they actually have to text.
Well, okay, well, hold on. Neither one of you were in on the conversation. So you sit down, let me hear what he's got to say.
So I called Everett, voicemail, he called me back, and he started off saying, no, man, you can have an ORV. I was like, you and I both know it's not just an ORV. And then he goes on to call it, he goes, oh, well, anyway, you can't have a motor vehicle. So then he flip-flopped the terminology.
Okay.
Again, there as well.
But I don't mean this to sound condescending, but what's the point of that story?
But so they're just, the original stop, because again,
There's confusion.
yeah, you're right, and that's why they kept me in the car so long, because they were trying to figure out what to even do, and that's what they came up with.
Right.
Right. So that's where this little ORV statute is trying to be applied to my situation.
Okay, all right. Okay. I don't doubt there's confusion. I mean, I'm here, okay? All right, let's get back to the paperwork. You got a copy now, Mr. Crusoe? All right. So counsel, if you can, show us, or direct us, I should say, to specific language where the township's hanging its hat.
Sure, so it similarly, identifies the definition of an ORV on the second page.
ORV or vehicles, is that where you're reading? Okay,
And then, it goes on to state